It is week number 5 of the college football season, and again, these are our predictions for the 5th week of college football. We've done this every single week so far, and here we go. And this is not the only prediction video we have made this week so far, because on Sunday we posted our UFC Paris predictions with Renato Moicano and Benoit Saint-Denis in the main event. In the co-main event, Nasruddin Imavov takes on Brendan Allen. Yesterday, we posted our PFL Europe predictions with Stevie Ray and Lewis Long in the main event, and then tomorrow we will have our week number 4 NFL predictions on the channel as well. So the links to the MMA predictions are in the description down below, and stay tuned again for this time tomorrow. We will have our NFL week number 4 predictions out as well. And last week I was asked to share, I guess, our win percentage so far on college football picks this year, and here it is. I calculated all of it. Now, we had one bad week. It was week 0, but does that week really count? Not really. So we got week 1, we went 53-39, week 2, 27-21, week 3, 35-17, week 4, 39-14. All-time record 155-94, which isn't bad. Again, we just started off pretty rough, I'm gonna be honest with you, but the beginning of the season, this is always gonna happen. You're not gonna know much about every single team in weeks 1 and 2. Weeks 3 and 4, we've done very well picking college football games, and by the way, this is not money line, this is all against the spread. So again, picking against the spread or with the spread so far this year, we are about 63-ish, I think, percent so far in the year on the spread, and that's again with our bad start in week 0 through 2. So I think we've done a pretty good job. We've been hitting on all cylinders recently, so let's keep it going. And folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more predictions here on the channel. As here we go, here's the first slate on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Here is everything. We're going to start things off here with Temple and Army. This game is being played at Lincoln Financial Field, obviously the home of the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we are going to be taking the Army Black Knights to cover 13.5. I don't think this is too hot of a take. Army's just been the way better football team this season. Bryson Daly's been very good as the starting quarterback of the squad. They've been moving the football up and down the field. How they threw a big touchdown pass in their last game over Rice. Did Bryson Daly. Actually, no, that was Navy who did that, wasn't it? That was definitely... No, Bryson Daly did throw the big touchdown pass. Yes, he threw it to Noah Short in the first quarter. Shout out Noah Short. He's a Kings Academy guy if you know Bay Area high schools. But, for Army, again, they're 3-0. They beat Rice last week. They beat FAU a couple weeks ago. They beat Lee, where they covered on literally the last play of the game, which... It is what it is. Our record could be a little bit better if they didn't decide to run the ball in with 5 seconds to go up by 35 points and cover against Lee, but it is what it is. Army's been very good this season. Of course, you know what Army's going to bring on the offensive side of the ball, but Bryson Daly has been very good for this football team. For Temple, this is a squad that just won their first game last week. Yes, we did get that wrong with them playing Utah State, and it's the best game Temple has played so far this season, but other than that, again, losses to Coastal, Navy, Oklahoma. If Navy's able to beat this Temple team by that much, Army should be able to do the same exact thing. I trust in the Black Knights. 13.5 is not a lot for this team. I think they go in and I think they win the football game, and obviously they cover against Temple as well. It's not, again, Temple is in Philadelphia, but they are playing at Lincoln Financial. You're going to get a lot of people from, I guess, West Point, or people who are West Point fans at this game, and I think Army will go out there and win the football game. Next up on Friday night, we have got Miami taking on VTech. I think the Hurricanes cover, and I think they win as well, obviously. This game's in Miami. Virginia Tech has looked absolutely pitiful. I mean, obviously you saw that viral moment where Kyron Jones has the safety in his own end zone, and somehow the ball gets thrown into the stands behind him in their game where they lost to Rutgers last week by 3 points. This is a team that's 2-2 this season. They beat Old Dominion, they beat Marshall, but lost to Vandy, of course, in week number 1. And since then, I just haven't been high on Virginia Tech. Again, I understand it. Kyron Jones hasn't been what he, I think, is expected to be for this team. Tudin has been all right in the running game as well. But you look at this Miami team, this is one of the best teams in all of college football. I'm very excited to go watch this team play Cal Berkeley in a couple weeks, or 2 weeks. So I'm just hoping they don't mess up and lose this football game, because I want to see them undefeated going in to Cal next week. But again, Miami's a very good football team right now. Cam Ward is definitely in the Heisman race, and he should be in the Heisman race. He is one of the better quarterbacks in college football right now. 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns. Again, he is him. And they got Jordan Lyle and Damian Martinez rushing the football. Lyle's actually been the better back so far this season. You got Xavier Restrepo as well as the leading receiver of this squad, Isaiah Horton, Elijah Arroyo, amongst others. This Miami team is balling, and they are going to cover the 19.5 at home against Virginia Tech. Next up, Kentucky and Ole Miss. Guys, Ole Miss might be the best team in all of college football right now. They might be. Now, again, we just haven't seen Ole Miss against a very good school yet, but until proven otherwise, Mississippi might be the best team in college football. That's how good this team is right now. 4-0. You look at the absolute domination that they have put on every single school they've played so far this season. Jackson Dart might be the best quarterback, in college football. I understand Shedeur Sanders. I understand Carson Beck. I don't get that one, actually. I would take Jackson Dart over Carson Beck. I get definitely Quinn Ewers, but again, Jackson Dart is at least top 3 in college football. Yes, I understand Cam Ward, but I'm putting Dart, Ewers, and Shedeur currently over Cameron Ward. But Jackson Dart's an absolute monster. You know, Trey Harris is playing lights out as well for this Ole Miss squad. I really like Ole Miss. And Kentucky, you know, yeah, they just lost to Georgia by 1 point, but don't forget a couple weeks ago, South Carolina beat them by 26. They beat Ohio, which is a good win. I thought Ohio was going to cover that game. They didn't, but it's fine. I like Ole Miss a lot. Again, this might be the best team in college football. I'm serious. Jackson Dart, again, right now I think he's the 4th best quarterback in college football, but he might be the best. We just have to wait and see, and I need to see Ole Miss play better schools. This is their SEC opener this season, and we'll see how good they are. But for now, I am a fan of the Rebels, and I think Ole Miss is going to go places this year. Give me the boys from Oxford. Give me Ole Miss to cover the 17.5. Next up, Michigan and Minnesota. Okay, I'm going to take Michigan to cover the 9. Now, again, I think I remember more of my losses than my wins. So again, if I say, oh, I lost this pick, again, I just remember them more. Like, again, I was going to say, oh yeah, I picked USC to beat Michigan and cover. They didn't, but at the same time, I was going to forget that I said that I picked that Iowa was going to cover and beat Minnesota. But that's besides the point. Again, I wasn't too high on Michigan last week. They still can't throw the football, obviously. Alex Orji is just not that good of a thrower of the football. He tends to go down quickly. He tries to scramble a lot. Obviously, a lot of their design passes are for Alex Orji to get out of the pocket and move the football. Davis Warren's still the better thrower of the football, I think, even though, again, they are going to Orji officially now, which for their offense, yes, it will work. And again, this is what Michigan needs to. If Michigan can play from ahead the entire game, they should be able to win. They should be able to blow teams out the water. Again, they were in a dogfight last week with Southern California, and they won it. So credit to them and shout out to Michigan. This team looked a lot better. Cleo Mullings has established himself as the -- back for Michigan, and it's not even close. Donovan Edwards had that fumble in the 4th quarter to almost give USC the football game. Yeah, Cleo Mullings is the guy for them. Their receiving core isn't bad, but again, it's just because they can't throw the football in general, and that's not what they're going to do. Again, Michigan plays like the forward pass hasn't been invented just yet, and, you know, they should be able to run it up here against Minnesota. I don't mind Minnesota that much. I don't mind Max Brosmer. I really like the guy. But I just think Minnesota's outgunned in this game. They got to go to the big house. I feel like 9 points just isn't enough. Give me Michigan to go out there and absolutely beat the brakes off of the Golden Gophers. Next up, we got Purdue and Nebraska. We are taking Nebraska to go to West Lafayette and cover the 10 points. And I understand, again, Nebraska's coming off a loss last week. Dylan Raiola did not play an amazing game last week against Illinois, but Illinois is beating a lot of teams right now, and Illinois, again, is in the top 20 in the country right now. Purdue has just looked awful. Again, since their Indiana State game, they had a chance to play Notre Dame where they're only 9-point favorites, 9-point underdogs. They lost at home. Then last week they went to Corvallis and got absolutely beat down against the Beavers, something that we predicted to happen, obviously. But I'm just not high on Purdue at all right now. Again, they had their opportunity to make a statement, and they got blown out by Notre Dame. Hudson Card has just been for this Purdue team so far. Their running game has struggled to get going at times as well. Nebraska's just the all-around better football team. And I understand, again, they lost to Illinois, but that's a dogfight against Illinois in overtime. Dylan Raiola, again, is still a very capable quarterback. Maybe he didn't play his best game last week, but I do think Raiola is still very capable, especially as a freshman. I like Nebraska a lot to win this football game. They should win, and they should cover on the road against Purdue. Next up, Buffalo and UConn. Guys, I try to tell you, Buffalo should not be 14-point dogs last week to Northern Illinois. I said they had a very good chance to win that football game, and what did they do? They won the football game as 14-point underdogs. Again, I have been high on Buffalo all season long, and guys, you can absolutely hammer this game. Buffalo is not losing to UConn, and on top of that, they're definitely not losing by more than 6 points. If Buffalo loses, it's going to be by a field goal. They're not losing by 6 to UConn. I have picked Buffalo every single week this season, and we have cashed on Buffalo. Not going to talk about the Missouri game, but we have cashed on Buffalo every single week. They were a 4-point favorite to beat Lafayette at the beginning of the season. They won the game by 17 points. They were, I believe, 2.5-point favorites to beat UMass. They beat them by 31. They were 14-point dogs against Northern Illinois. They beat Northern Illinois. Guys, I'm telling you, Buffalo is a dark horse to win the Mid-American Conference this season. Of course, this game against UConn is a non-league game, but still, the Bulls are legit. Guys, Buffalo is a very legit team. I really like CJ, their starting quarterback. He can run, he can throw. You got Jaquez Barksdale as well at the backfield. Victor Snow is their leading receiver. I like Buffalo a lot. 6 points is ridiculous. They should not be underdogs to UConn. I don't care, again, that UConn beat FAU. I don't give a damn. Buffalo is the much better football team. They are going to run it up on the road against UConn. This is a sneaky good team. That is a team, and again, they are a sneaky team to win the Mid-American this season. Give me the Bulls to win and to cover the 6 points. Sorry, I got a little bit worked up there, but again, Buffalo is my squad this year. Not really, but I'm just, they've been cashing for us this season. I've been saying they've been criminally underrated this entire year. Next up, Northern Illinois and NC State. I see this line moving a little bit. I see it at 7 some places. I see it at 6.5. I really like the 7 for NIU. Regardless, I'm going to take them to cover 6.5 as well. And I don't know if NC State can beat anybody right now by more than a touchdown. It's just, they haven't been all that impressive this season. I'm going to be the first to say I was wrong about North Carolina to start the season. I thought this was a school that could make a run to potentially win the ACC. Obviously, that didn't happen. It's fine. They're just not very good this season, right? They just aren't. They got blown out the building against Clemson. Grayson McCall has just been severely underwhelming for this team. They beat Louisiana Tech by 10 points. I'm not high on NC State at all. I think we have seen that since their week 1 game against West Carolina, and we have picked against NC State, at least on the spread, every single week since then for good reason. And they're taking on Northern Illinois, again, a team that did beat Notre Dame, right? But then lost last week to Buffalo. That's fine, guys. Buffalo is a very good football team, and I'm not afraid to say how good that team is, and I don't really think it's a bad loss for NIU. Now, again, should they have beat Buffalo? Well, again, I thought it was going to be a dogfight, and it was. But again, I think this is a very good game for NIU to bounce back on the road. I'm not saying they'll beat NC State, but this game's going to be very competitive, and they're not going to lose by more than 6.5 points. So give me NIU to win this one or to cover on this one. I'll take NC State to win the football game, but give me NIU to cover. Navy and UAB, I don't know how this is only 3.5. I understand Navy's on the road here, but did you watch Navy play Memphis last week? The way they're able to, again, just put up points on a very good Memphis squad. Seth Hennigan's a good quarterback, and, Navy didn't really shut him down, but the running attack, man, I mean, again, Blake Horvath is a very good two-way guy. He had 211 yards rushing. That's a Matt Sluka type performance for Blake Horvath. And this guy, again, he's not the best thrower of the ball, but last week he went 9 for 12 for 192 yards. He had 211 yards on the ground. Again, Navy is very good this season. They're sneaky good. I didn't think they were going to beat Memphis, but they did, and they are going to beat the brakes off of UAB. UAB lost by only 10 to Arkansas. Okay, what, they're going to beat Navy? Hell no. This is incredibly mispriced. Just 2 weeks ago, UAB lost to Louisiana Monroe 32-6. Nah, Navy goes into UAB and they absolutely destroy them. Next up, we've got USF and Tulane. We're taking Tulane to cover the 6.5. Now, again, USF has just been in games in the first half, every single game they play, but they fall apart every second half they play. Alabama, Miami. Like, again, Southern Miss they beat, but I really don't care about that football game. Tulane, they've been just good enough to lose so far this season. Kansas State, Oklahoma, they beat Louisiana last week. They should win this game against USF. Expect this to be a close game in the first half, but Tulane to pull away in the second and Tulane to go out there, win the game. I say they win it by about 10 points. Next up, JMU takes on Ball State. Ball State just isn't very good. They are one of the bottom of the barrel MAC teams. Hell, maybe the Golden Flashes from Kent State can actually win a football game and beat Ball State later this season. They probably won't, but still, Ball State's just been severely underwhelming. They lost last week by 3 to Central Michigan. Of course, Miami beat them 62-0. I mean, what do you expect of the Cardinals this year, right? They're just not that great. James Madison, hell, last week put up 70 points on North Carolina. They won the game 70-50. That should tell you who should win this football game. And again, does this feel like a little bit of a trap for JMU coming back, against Ball State? They are huge favorites. They are at home. Are they going to cover 21? I think they will. I like Alonzo Barrett III a lot. He was really balling out last week. He is both their leading passer and their leading rusher with the Dukes this season. And again, this is a team that I did not expect to have this much success this season. After Curt Cignetti left to Indiana, after they saw a lot of their guys transfer to Bloomington, look at what James Madison has done since. And hell, look at what Indiana is doing with Curt Cignetti. So shout out to JMU as a whole. Again, they've got a team winning in the Big Ten. They got a team winning in the Sun Belt. Good for the James Madison Dukes. I think they go out here and absolutely destroy Ball State and cover the 20.5 as well. Next up, Sam Houston State takes on Texas State. At the beginning of the season, I thought Sam Houston was horrible. They're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. I think they cover the 8 points against Texas State. Do I think they beat Texas State? No, but I think they cover the 8 points. I think, again, they're good enough to keep this game competitive. Hunter Watson, he's a little bit suspect because he throws the ball away a lot. He throws a lot of picks. I think he's got 5 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, but last week he played really well at home against, New Mexico State. Had a big game on the ground rushing-wise, had 2 touchdowns. The Bearcats have played really well since their loss to UCF. They've won back-to-back games against Hawaii and against New Mexico State. Texas State against 2-1 this season. They beat UTSA, but then lost to Arizona State on that Friday night game, or Thursday night. I think it was Friday night. I don't mind this Texas State team at all. Again, they bounced back pretty well since losing TJ Finley. Jordan McLeod has really come into his own as the starting quarterback of this football team. I think they're good enough to win the football game. I don't think they cover the 8 points, so I think they win this game by a touchdown, and that would be enough to cover for the Bearcats. Give me Sam Houston State. Are they Sam Houston State, or are they just Sam Houston? Sam Houston to cover the 8 points. This game is at NRG Stadium in Houston, of course, the home of the Texans, but yeah, give me Sam Houston to cover the 8 points. USC and Wisconsin. This game is in Los Angeles. I will expect USC to cover the 14.5 points. Now, Miller Moss didn't play a horrible game. Obviously, threw that interception to Will Johnson. It is what it is. Miller Moss is still one of the better quarterbacks in college football. Again, the way he was able to deal with that dominant Michigan D-line, the way he was able to play under duress, like, I was very impressed with Miller Moss in that game, even in a loss. And what has Wisconsin done this season? They beat Western Michigan by 14 points. They beat South Dakota by 14 points. And they went to Tuscaloosa and lost by 32 points. This is not a good football team. I have been down on Wisconsin the entire season, and I'm going to continue to be down on Wisconsin. Simply put, they're just not very good. USC's the better football team. They're going to put up points. Wisconsin's offense is not going to be able to do anything, especially with the Van Dyke injury, right? Yeah, give me Wisconsin to absolutely get shelled on the road against USC. I think USC covers 14.5 quite easily. Oklahoma and Auburn. This is a rough game because I don't think very highly of either of these teams. I don't think either of these teams are going to really make a play at the SEC championship, obviously. But this is an Auburn team, again, that's 2-2, and their only wins are Alabama, A&M, in a game where they had to pull away in the second half against New Mexico. And by the way, I'm very high on the Lobos, not because I think they're good, just because I think they've got a lot of capability of covering the spread every week. Shout out Devin Dampier. For Auburn, again, the losses, 7-point loss at home to Cal, a 10-point loss at home to the Arkansas Razorbacks. Oklahoma, again, their offense looked absolutely pitiful last week. Jackson Arnold is not going to be getting the start this week. Instead, it will be Michael Hawkins, which I don't think is a horrible move. Again, the offense was just really stalling out with Jackson Arnold. They only scored 15 points at home last week against Tennessee. Again, Tennessee's offense didn't look great in that game either. But Jackson Arnold, again, was 7 for 16 throwing the football, threw a pick as well, just wasn't making smart decisions with the ball, was taking sacks. I understand why Michael Hawkins is getting the start, and I think it's going to kickstart the offense a little bit, but I'll be honest with you guys, this pick isn't me saying, oh, I think Oklahoma is really good. It's just, yeah, I think Auburn sucks. Give me Oklahoma to win the football game and to cover the 2 on the road. A&M and Arkansas. Again, 2 teams that I'm just not impressed with in the SEC. I'm not impressed with A&M. I understand they beat Bowling Green last week, but how is this team still ranked? They beat Bowling Green by 6 points. And okay, yeah, Penn State played Bowling Green pretty tough too, but why is A&M ranked so high? Again, they shouldn't be ranked at all. Now, they're going to beat Arkansas. Arkansas, I don't think is very good either. Simply put, I think A&M's the better football team. This is going to be at AT&T Stadium. It's going to be in Dallas. And again, this should be a home field type advantage for Texas A&M. They should be able to win this game, but guys, I don't think they win it by that much. Again, Marcel Reed's been better at quarterback for this team, and I think it's the right move that A&M did make. And Arkansas, again, I don't mind what they got going on with Taylor Green and whatnot, but I don't think the Arkansas offense is going to be able to score much this week. A&M, I just think, is slightly better. I'm not anticipating that good of a game in this one, but I think A&M wins this game by like 4 or 5 points, but I think they'll do enough to just cover. Next up, we have got UMass going to Miami of Ohio. Give me Massachusetts to cover the 18 points in Oxford. I believe it's in Oxford, right? Yeah, in Oxford. Miami's 0-3 this season, and we have, I picked Cincinnati to cover against them. We picked Miami to cover against Notre Dame. I believe we're 3-0 picking with Miami, like, again, either way, picking Miami games this season, and we're hoping we go to 4-0 here. I just think this is too many points for Miami, a team that hasn't won a football game this season. Giving them 18 points just feels like a lot, and I understand Massachusetts is bad, but Massachusetts hasn't lost a game other than shout out the Buffalo Bulls by more than 18 points all season. They've had a 14-point loss to Eastern Michigan. They had a 15-point loss to Toledo. Again, those are games, if they have that against Miami of Ohio, they still cover. Guys, Eastern Michigan and Toledo are very comparable to Miami of Ohio. And again, Massachusetts went to Toledo and only lost by 15 points. They're getting 18 here against Miami. I think they lose the game by 2 touchdowns, but I still think they cover. Miami to win, but UMass to cover the spread. Next up, we have got the Raging Cajuns going to Wake Forest. Give me Wake Forest to cover the 3 points. I just think they're the better football team. Now, I know. Again, how can I say Wake Forest is a better football team considering their last 2 games? Sure. Louisiana hasn't looked all that great either. Yeah, they beat Kennesaw State, but that's Kennesaw State. They lost to Tulane by 8 points. They are able to put up points, but Wake Forest, again, yes, their offense was horrible last week, but again, that's against Ole Miss, or 2 weeks ago, that was against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss, again, might be the best team in college football right now. Texas definitely is number 1, but again, I want to hype up my guy Jackson Dart here a little bit. Wake Forest should be able to, they should be able to get the offense going this week. All around, they are the better football team than Louisiana. Again, if you take away their loss last 2 weeks ago to Ole Miss, and you just say Wake Forest versus Louisiana in a football game, Wake Forest is going to win that football game and cover 3 points 9 out of 10 times. The Demon Deacons, again, they are the way better team. They have the way better offseason. I understand, again, we're deep in the season now, but still, Wake Forest has too much talent to not win this football game by 3 points. Next up, Texas Christian and Kansas. Some of these Big 12 games are pretty tough to pick because a lot of these teams just in the middle of the mist, a lot of these teams are just really competitive. And TCU surprised me last week by losing by that much to Southern Methodist they're by Dallas. In Texas, well, they're both in Texas. Damn it. On the CW network, they lost 66-42 to SMU. Before that, again, they lost by 1 to UCF. They beat Stanford in week number 1. Kansas just hasn't been the team we thought they were going to be this season, though. They just haven't. Jalen Daniels has been bad. I like Jalen Daniels, but that's the only way I can put it. Devin Neal has been the bright spot of this team at the running back position, but Jalen Daniels has thrown 7 interceptions in, 3 games so far this season? That's really bad. In 4 games, but still, that's really horrible. If Texas Christian's able to turn this team over, which I think they're going to be able to, I think their defense can play a lot better this week against Kansas than they did last week at Southern Methodist. I trust in the offense's ability to score because they should be able to score against anybody. And I think Texas Christian goes out here and wins the football game and they cover the spread as well. Hell, they're 2-point dogs in this one, so give me TCU to win and to cover, obviously, the 2 points as well. Next up, App State and Liberty. Now, Liberty played a very interesting game last week. Again, that was the game that was delayed for 5 hours because of lightning. Eventually, they played it on they started the game at 11 o'clock on the East Coast or 10:30 on the East Coast. They fell behind really early against East Carolina. I believe they were down 17-0. They ended up winning the football game 35-24. I've been saying it all season long. Liberty should be one of the favorites to get out the group of 5. And now we're gonna have some teams later on in this video we're gonna talk about as the favorites potentially get out the group of 5 as well. I'm talking UNLV. I'm talking Fresno State. I'm talking about Boise State. Again, those 3 schools in the Mountain West are very good. I still want to give a shout out to my guys at San Jose State as well. Shout out Nick Nash. He might be the best receiver in college football. Anyways, I still believe in Liberty a lot. Again, they were able to deal with adversity last week. They had their game delayed 4 or 5 hours. They still came back after a rough start, came back and won the football game. Caden Slaughter, again, is still a very good quarterback for the G5 level. Obviously, he tried to test his luck in the portal, try to get that shot in the Power 5 last year. He didn't really have any takers, at least at anything that he wanted, so he went back to Liberty, and it's been the best move for him. Again, I said it too when I heard that Caden Slaughter was going to the portal, why? This is your best chance to win is at Liberty. It's your best chance to beat up on this competition and potentially get your name out there on the national stage in the postseason. They're much better than Appalachian State. I don't know why they're only getting 3 points. Guys, absolutely hammer this line. This might be the lock of the week. 3.5 Liberty at Appalachian State. Appalachian State just got killed at home last week by South Alabama, a game that we predicted right as well. They lost 48-14 at home. Liberty is 10 times the team App State is. All day, give me the Flames. All right, let's go on. Oh, we got still one more game on the slate. San Diego State goes to Central Michigan. At the beginning of the season, I didn't think I was going to be picking Central Michigan to beat San Diego State, but here I am. I think the Chippewas are better. Guys, San Diego State's been very horrible this season, and now they got to go on the road all the way to Michigan. Just a lot to ask for this football team. Other than Marquez Cooper, what has been good for San Diego State this season? I'll wait. Nothing. The Chippewas have played iffy football, but look at the teams they've... Look, the FIU loss looks horrible, but still, last week, the Ball State victory, again, they ended up winning at the very end of the game. I liked, again, they were able to drive down the field with about 3 minutes to go and win the football game. I'm fine with Central Michigan. I trust in their offense. I think they should be able to score, and I just think they're better than San Diego State. If they're able to stop the run or at least limit the run a little bit, they will win. Let's go on to our next slate. We've got a lot more, obviously. Georgia Southern versus Georgia State. I believe this is the Here Comes the Boom game. I believe, yes, the Costco guys are going to be at this game. They're literally, Georgia State is promoting this game as Costco Guys Night. So give me Georgia State. Not because of that, just because they're the all-around way better football team. This team beat Vandy 2 weeks ago. And Vandy, again, I know this this isn't how math works sometimes, but still, Vandy last week played Missouri and took them to double overtime. Georgia State beat Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago by 4 points. They beat Chattanooga only by 3, but again, I feel like we can put a lot into that win against Vandy, and now they play Georgia Southern, a team that does have an explosive offense, but a team that has not looked like they should, I guess, since week 1 against Boise State. They just haven't looked as good as they were at the beginning of the season. J.C. French is a good quarterback for this football team. I'll give credit to J.C. French, but the rest of the team I think leaves a lot to be desired. Their defense isn't very good. Their passing game's all right, but their run game, they literally cannot run the football to save their lives. They can't run, they can't play defense. Georgia State's better. So here comes the boom. Georgia State wins the football game. Next up, we've got Western Michigan taking on Marshall. I believe this line has moved a little bit. It opened at 4, now it's 5.5. Marshall should win the football game. I get it. Again, the spread has been moving very quickly. I don't know what to make of these two teams, though. I'll be completely honest with you. Don't bet on this game. A lot could happen. I don't know what to get out of either of these teams so far. Okay, Marshall's 2 losses are Ohio State and Virginia Tech. Their win is Stony Brook. And Western Michigan's losses are Wisconsin, Ohio State, and their win is Bethune-Cookman. Now, I'm going to make my pick because I think Wisconsin sucks. So Marshall should absolutely dominate Western Michigan because Western Michigan lost to Wisconsin. Now, again, this is a MAC team playing a team in the Big Ten, but maybe I'm just a Wisconsin hater. I am. I'm sorry. They haven't been the same since Jonathan Taylor. Give me Marshall to win the football game. Okay. Next up, and to cover the spread. Akron versus Ohio. I think Ohio covers the 12.5. Before Kent State, there was Akron as the worst team in the MAC. DJ Irons obviously is gone. I like Ben Finley. I'm really glad Ben Finley's the starting quarterback of this football team. Now, again, he had a rough game last week at South Carolina, but what do you expect from Akron playing the Gamecocks in South Carolina? Seriously, what do you expect? Ohio last week lost at Kentucky. They beat up on Morgan State a couple weeks ago. They beat South Alabama by 7 points. That's a good win. That's a really good win. Only losing to Syracuse by 16 isn't horrible as well. I like Ohio. I like Parker Navarro a little bit. He turns the ball over some, so actually, let's pump the brakes on that. He's just really good in college football, 25, I'm not going to lie. I think Ohio's the better football team, though. Again, they can run the ball way more effectively than Akron. They should be able to run it up, and they should be able to win this game by more than 12.5. Next up, Eastern Michigan and Kent State. So again, we mentioned Akron used to be the worst team in the MAC. Kent State's now the worst team in the MAC. I'm sorry. Again, I don't have anything personally against Kent State. I cheer for the Golden Flashes every single week. I'm not lying to you. I cheer for them every single week. But guys, I'm trying to again have the best record possible in picking college football games. So with that being said, I have to pick against the Golden Flashes. I want the Golden Flashes to succeed week in and week out. But guys, this team hasn't scored a point in a football game in 3 weeks. Lost to Tennessee 71-0. Lost to Penn State 56-0. Guys, they haven't covered once this season. They're 0-4 against the spread. They're 0-4 with a record. And Eastern Michigan, guys, is 3-1. They only lost to Washington by 3 touchdowns. They beat UMass by 14. They beat Jacksonville State by 3. The game I want to compare you guys to is both these two schools played an FCS school called St. Francis, PA. Okay, Eastern Michigan beat St. Francis, PA 36-0 at home. Okay, when St. Francis, PA played St. Francis, Pennsylvania, when they played Kent State, they won by 6 points at Kent. Guys, the quarterback for St. Francis, Jeff Hosteen, was looking like Lamar Jackson out there playing against Kent State. And you think Kent State's going to beat Eastern Michigan? Also, something to note, Kent State's without their top 2 quarterbacks. Devin Cargman got stretchered out at Penn State, and their backup quarterback, which I didn't know he was the backup quarterback, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know J.D. Sherrod was the backup quarterback. I thought it was Tommy Ulatowski, because I remember in the offseason, Tommy Ulatowski lost the position battle to Devin Cargman. Well, they're on their 3rd-string quarterback. Obviously, the coaching staff at Kent sees something in J.D. over Tommy Ulatowski, but now, again, they have to go to Ulatowski. Guys, they're on their 3rd-string quarterback. What the hell are they going to do? I feel like I should come out of retirement and play for Kent State. I'm serious. I need to come out of, I should send them my high school film of my 4-6 high school football team and try to walk on, Maybe I should do a film study one of these weeks of my tape. I had a really good 6-week Linsanity run where I was going absolutely crazy. I was, you know, I'll stop hyping myself up a little bit, but hey, I was my team's leading passer and leading rusher for about 6 weeks, actually for the entire season as well. I want to put that out there. I think the Golden Flashes should give me a shot. I'm just saying. I think I can come back. I played that season on a dislocated shoulder too. That was my throwing shoulder too. I want Kent State to give me a shot. So, you know, if you have a connection to Kent State, just let them know I can go out and play quarterback for that football team. Okay, let's go on to UNC versus Duke. I think Duke covers the 2.5. Again, this is a killer basketball matchup. Duke's the better team. North Carolina, again, is without their starting quarterback, Max Johnson. They lost to James Madison and had 70 points put on them. And I think, again, that's not, you know, that's bad, but I think we should kind of disregard that for a little bit. JMU is one of the better teams in the group of 5. They are, again, like Liberty, one of those teams that could come out in the G5 and make it to the postseason. But Duke is just playing tremendous football right now. They are 4-0. Again, this is their first game in the ACC this season. They beat a Big Ten school this year in Northwestern. Malik Murphy has been really good. He's been a huge shock, I would say, for this Duke team, and I've been impressed a lot with the Blue Devils as a whole. Give me Duke to win the football game. I think they win it, and I think they cover 2 against North Carolina. The spread is, what, 2.5? Yeah, give me Duke to go out there, cover, and to win. Next up, UTSA takes on East Carolina. I think East Carolina covers the 4 at home. Just when you look at these two teams, I think East Carolina is better. Texas San Antonio, who might be joining the Pac-12 next year. You know, they're 2-2. They beat Houston Christian last week, but that's an FCS. They beat Kennesaw State by 12 points. Again, that's Kennesaw State. They lost by 39 to Texas State. They lost to Texas by 49 points as well. Again, those aren't bad schools, but East Carolina is just the better football team. They've played teams very tough this season. ODU, they beat by 17 points in a game that I believe, or they beat by 6 points in a game I believe they were underdogs in. Even on the road, I believe they were road underdogs. App State, they only lost to by 2 points. They were in control of that game against Liberty until the second half, or till the very end of the first half. East Carolina is the better football team, and this game is in Carolina as well. Yeah, East Carolina should be able to win the football game, and they should be able to cover the 4 points at home in Greenville as well. Next up, Texas versus Mississippi State. I'm taking Mississippi State to cover the 38.5. I feel like this one might bite me in the ass, though. Yeah, it's just a lot of points for an SEC game. It's a lot. Yeah, guys, that's 5 touchdowns and a field goal still wouldn't cut it. That's a lot of points against another SEC school. Don't get me wrong, Texas, I think, wins by 5 touchdowns. But that's not enough to cover. 38.5 is a lot. It's so many points, and I get it. Mississippi State has looked horrible. They lost to Toledo by a lot. They lost to Florida by a lot. They lost to Arizona State by 7 points. You don't think they're going to be somewhat motivated to fight and win in this football game? Because look who they have next week or in 2 weeks. They play Georgia. They go to Athens. They got to give some sort of fight. Don't get me wrong. They're going to get killed. But if they get killed and still lose by 5 touchdowns, that's still Mississippi State covering. Give me the Bulldogs to cover the 38.5. They lose by 35, but they covered 38.5 as well. Next up, ODU takes on takes on Bowling Green. I think ODU covers the 9, just because that's a lot of points for Bowling Green, I think. And ODU's been severely underwhelming this season. I will keep backing them just because they played South Carolina really tough to start the season. I mean, I get it, Bowling Green, again, they played Penn State and Texas A&M really tough back-to-back weeks. But still, they have not won a football game. And I understand they played 2 really good teams very close. Sure, they still have not won a football game, though. But again, they have to win the game by more than a touchdown. That's a lot in this MAC matchup here. ODU is not great, but I think they're good enough to stay competitive in this football game. They only lost to East Carolina by 6 points, and if they lose to Bowling Green by 6 points, they cover. So give me ODU to cover the 9. But don't get me wrong, I think Bowling Green wins the football game pretty easily. FIU and Louisiana Tech. God, FIU is just such a weird team. They really are. They're really weird. Give me FIU to cover, though, I guess. Louisiana Tech's been bad, too. Florida International lost last week to Monmouth, 45-42. Surprisingly, their closest loss the entire season is to the Indiana Hoosiers. And Indiana should be ranked. Guys, Indiana's a top 15 in the country, top 15 team in the country right now. And I'll keep saying this, and they are going to beat Maryland this week. I don't know. I'm sorry if that gives away my prediction later, but they're going to beat Maryland this week. And again, week 11 or week 12, whenever it is, in Columbus, Ohio, it will be Ohio State versus Indiana. It will be 10-0 versus 10-0. Those two teams are going to play twice this season. They'll play once in Columbus and once in the Big Ten championship game. And that's going to be the game of the year. It's going to be College Game Day in Columbus, IU versus Ohio State, and that's going to be a huge game. Indiana, guys, is one Ohio State win away from making the postseason this year. I think they will do it. Actually, I don't have to beat Ohio State. I kind of need to pump the brakes a little bit on my end. But I'll get in my Indiana tangent later in this video because I hype up the Hoosiers every single week. I think FIU beats Louisiana Tech, though. I'm not confident at all. I'm really not. It's just Louisiana Tech's been bad, too. They kept competitive with NC State, but NC State's been dog-awful. They lost to Tulsa by 3 points. They beat Nichols by 8 points. Both these teams suck. Give me FIU. This is bottom of the board, bottom of the barrel CUSA play, though. I really don't got much else to say. When the teams are close and the spread is close, take the team at home. Okay, next up, Clemson and Stanford. I think Clemson should cover 21.5. Actually, no. Stanford played last week really tough against Syracuse, so never mind. Give me the Cardinal to cover 21.5 points because, again, they can lose by 3 touchdowns and still cover. That's a lot of points. And I understand, again, Clemson's playing really good football. They beat NC State 59-35. They're not going to do that against Stanford. Stanford's better than NC State, surprisingly, this season. I know. They are much better than NC State this year, though. Ashton Daniels is just okay. They've got one of the better receivers in college football, at least for his age, like Iomanor. I butcher his name every single time. They need to find a way to get some production out the running back position other than, again, they just having Ashton Daniels keep on a quarterback power because that's mainly what they do. They don't run the football with anybody else other than Ashton Daniels. But Daniels does everything for this team. Elijah Brown, I don't mind as their backup quarterback either. But again, Stanford played really well last week at Syracuse. They go to Clemson. They're not a bad football team. They're not bad enough to lose by more than 21.5 points. Again, they can lose by 3 touchdowns and still cover the football game. That's too many points. Stanford doesn't win, but again, they will cover the spread. Iowa State goes to Houston. Iowa State might be one of the best teams right now in college football. They are one of the best teams in the Big 12, if not the best team in the Big 12. I understand Utah's there. Shout out Colorado. We'll get to them later. Central Florida is definitely very good as well. Arizona, we'll see. But Iowa State's really good. Did you watch them beat the brakes off Arkansas State last week? Again, that's a team that Michigan struggled with, and I get it. Two completely different offenses. Michigan doesn't play like Iowa State at all, but still, Iowa State's offense is firing on all cylinders right now. Houston's just a very confusing team. They played Oklahoma tough, but that's just because Oklahoma sucks. They only lost, and again, I know I picked Oklahoma to win this week, but I don't think very highly of Oklahoma at all. They lost to the Sooners by 4 points. They beat Rice, who's absolutely horrible, 33-7. And last week they beat Cincinnati lost Cincinnati 34-0. The spread on that game was like 4.5. It was absolutely ridiculous. Cincinnati's the much better football team. Iowa State's going to beat the brakes off Houston. Houston has nothing to offer this football team. Absolutely nothing. Their quarterback play is abysmal. They can't run the football either. Houston is one of the worst teams in the Big 12, if not the worst team in the Big 12. Iowa State destroys them because their offense is just way better than whatever Houston's going to offer them on defense, or at least on the other side of the football. UL Monroe takes on Troy. Oh, goodness. Give me UL Monroe to cover the 8. I think this line's a little bit inflated just because everyone watched them play Texas, and they sucked, obviously. But what do you expect? They're playing Texas. They turned Arch Manning over a couple times. That's exciting. Don't get me wrong, they lost 51-3. But guys, just 2 games ago, they beat UAB 32-6. What has Troy done this season that shows to you that they can beat UL Monroe in the first place and cover 8 points? I'm not against taking UL Monroe to straight up win the football game. I'm not going to give you that pick because you can make that your own judgment because I don't want that against me if I get that wrong. And I'm not as confident with it like I am with like Buffalo winning on the road. But UL Monroe is going to cover 8 points against Troy. They're so much better. I think, again, if this game was in Louisiana, I think UL Monroe covers and wins the game probably fairly easy. Just because this game is at Troy, it gets a little bit iffy, but Troy's done nothing great this season. They lost to Nevada by 2 points, but UNR sucks. They lost to Memphis by 21. Iowa beat up on them. Like, I don't think Troy's good. They beat Florida A&M, but who gives a damn? Like, yeah, I think that UL Monroe might win the football game, but covering again, is definitely... that's in their back pocket. They got that. They're not losing this game by more than 8 points. Next up, Rice takes on Charlotte. Both these teams are just weird. Give me Charlotte to cover 6.5. Rice is just pitiful. Charlotte's not very good either, but they scored 14 points in Indiana. That, I guess, gets you somewhere. I don't know. They're both really bad. I'm not going to lie. This is one of the worst games of the week. Just, again, when both teams are very bad like this, 6.5 points is just way too much. It's just way too much. Rice can't move the football at all. Their offense isn't good. EJ Warner is just, it's EJ Warner. Is EJ Warner, this is Kurt Warner's son, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's Kurt Warner's son. I like Kurt Warner. I really do. And I hope EJ Warner has all the success in the world, but he's just been not good so far this year for them. Charlotte hasn't been good either, but again, when both teams suck and the spread is a little bit, again, wide, give me the team that can cover the points. Give me 6.5 for Charlotte. I think Rice probably wins, but just 6.5 is just way too much. Give me the 49ers on the road. Next up, we've got Tulsa and UNT. Give me North Texas to cover at home against Tulsa. Tulsa has just been underwhelming this season. They lost to Oklahoma State, expected. They lost to Arkansas State, expected. Beat Louisiana Tech by 3 points, but North Texas has been very good. Again, you can take away their Texas Tech loss. That's a Big 12 school. I don't really care about that. Beat South Alabama by 14. They beat up on Wyoming last week, even though pretty much every single team in college football can beat up on the Wyoming Cowboys right now. But North Texas's offense is explosive. Chandler Morris is just, he's not afraid to sling it. He will throw some picks, but he's going to throw a lot of touchdowns as well. North Texas is going to throw the ball up and down the field all day long against Tulsa, and North Texas will win the football game and cover the 6.5 points as well. They're the much better football team. Middle Tennessee takes on Memphis. Now, Memphis, again, disappointed us last week. It was a huge game for them. It was a huge game in the American Conference, and they lost to Navy. They got killed 56-44. Well, they didn't get killed, but they couldn't get a stop on defense. It is what it is, right? This is still a football team I can trust, and I think they're going on the road. No, they're at home against Middle Tennessee. Yeah, this is all day. Middle Tennessee is just a horrible football team. Actually, I don't want to say that. I don't want to crap on them too much, but they won their tune-up game by 7 points against Tennessee Tech. They lost to Ole Miss like expected. They lost to Western Kentucky by a bunch of points at home, and then they lost to Duke by a bunch of points at home as well. Again, you've heard of what Middle Tennessee can do again with Nicholas Viado. But Memphis is just a better football team. Memphis should be able to run circles around Middle Tennessee, and they're going to win this game by 35 points. They're at home, too. Yeah, they're going to get the home crowd going. This is a get-back opportunity after their loss to Navy last week as well. Give me the Tigers to run them out the building. Next up, we've got South Alabama going to LSU. Give me the Jaguars to cover 21 points in Baton Rouge. Now, you might get 21.5. I really like 21.5. 21 gets a little bit iffy, but I don't know if LSU can beat anybody by 21 points right now. They beat Nichols by 23 points, right? They beat South Carolina by 3. They beat UCLA, who they were supposed to destroy, by only 17. South Alabama is not a bad football team, guys. They beat Northwestern State. I understand it's Northwestern State, but they beat them 87-10. They won the game by 77 points. This offense can put up points. They went on the road last Thursday night, put up 48 on the road against App State, a team that's supposed to be one of the better schools in the Sun Belt. Yeah, South Alabama all day long. They're probably not going to beat LSU, but this game's going to be a little bit competitive. South Alabama will stay in this football game in the first half. They'll lose it, but LSU will win and cover the 21 points. Next up, Florida State plays SMU. I don't care if Florida State beat Cal last week. If Cal's kicker could knock down a field goal, California wins that football game. I'm not mad at all that I put a lot of money on California to win that football game. It's fine. The 49ers lost me a lot more, but we're not going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Anyways, Florida State's still horrible. Their offense had 2 good drives the entire football game. They still cannot do anything on the offensive side of the ball. They scored 14 points again. And again, if Cal's kicker could make a field goal, a 30-yarder, they would have won the football game 15-14. Cal was the better team. Fernando Mendoza made some mistakes, but I think Cal as a whole is a better team than Florida State. Florida State still sucks. They're going to go on the road to SMU, a team that put up 66 points against Texas Christian. SMU is levels ahead of Florida State. They are. Their offense is way better. SMU wins the football game. They run Florida State out the building. Texas Tech versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just one of these teams I keep on picking, man. The Bearcats are one of these teams I keep on picking. Maybe it's because I was a big Desmond Ridder guy when he was in college, and I really like that Cincinnati squad with Sauce Gardner, with Kobe Bryant, with Alec Pierce and Jerome Ford. Now this is the new age of Cincinnati football, but I want to give a huge shout out to former IU quarterback Brendan Sorbsey, who has been a top 10 quarterback in all of college football to start the season. He has not thrown an interception. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. Brendan Sorbsey is legit. He throws at about a 70% completion rate as well. This guy is dominant. Give me Cincinnati all day long. Texas Tech beat Arizona. Sure, they beat North Texas. Cincinnati's the better football team. Their defense will be able to hold Texas Tech. I didn't forget about the Red Raiders' first 2 games of the season. I'm fine with Cincinnati going to Texas and winning the football game. If this game was in Cincinnati, Cincinnati would be favored. I don't care if they're on the road. They still win the football game, and by far they cover the 3 points. All right, we go on to our next one. New Mexico takes on New Mexico State. New Mexico is 10 times better than New Mexico State. And I understand it. Again, the Lobos have not won a football game this season so far. And yes, I'm taking an 0-4 team to win by double digits, but I'm fine with that. New Mexico State's god-awful. New Mexico's offense can score. What's rough for them is their defense can't hold anybody, but New Mexico State can't score on anybody. They put a goose egg on the board against Fresno State. They scored 11 against Sam Houston last week. New Mexico is 10 times the team that New Mexico State is. Devin Dampier, again, is so underrated. He needs to calm down the interception numbers. He needs to make smarter decisions with the football, but he's one of the better dual threat guys in all of college football. I really like Devin Dampier a lot, and they're going to run New Mexico State out of the stadium. New Mexico wins that football game, and they cover the 9 points as well. We've got a couple more games, 2 more games before we get into the features. We've got Air Force in Wyoming. Air Force is so much better than Wyoming. I don't know why they're only getting 4 points. It's because the game's in Laramie, but Wyoming's 0-4 this season. They lost to Idaho by 4 points at home. And yeah, Air Force has been really iffy recently, but that's fine. They're still the better football team. The wing tee that Air Force runs should be able to, again, run up and down the field against Wyoming. I'm not high on either of these schools, but this is more of, again, Wyoming's a lot worse than Air Force is, so Air Force should win the football game. Our final game before we get into the features, UCLA and Oregon. Oregon should cover the 24 points. UCLA is not very good. Yes, they remain competitive with LSU, but that's more just LSU sucking. You saw what happened when UCLA played a real football team. I'm looking at the Indiana Hoosiers, and Indiana beat them by 29 points in Pasadena. Oregon's way better. They go on the road. This is not a far trip. This is an old Pac-12 game. Oregon finally got on track when they beat Oregon State. That's the game they needed. They went to Corvallis and they got back on track and won the football game 49-14. Dylan Gabriel's a top 10 quarterback in college football. Yes, this team got back on track. Now Oregon's going to start to, completely decimating teams, and it starts now when they play UCLA. Okay, it starts right now. And yes, does Oregon, Oregon being Oregon, still tamper with my Ohio State-Indiana prediction in the Big Ten championship game? No, it doesn't, because Ohio State's going to beat Oregon, and Oregon, I don't know, might slip on a banana peel in Michigan. I'm just saying what happened when USC went to Ann Arbor. I don't know, man. I'm just saying I think we still get an Ohio State versus Indiana Big Ten championship, okay? I'm just saying, watch, Maryland's going to beat IU just this week. Just watch. No, it's not happening. Indiana, Ohio State's happening in the Big Ten championship game, but this game, though, give me Oregon State to cover the 24 against UCLA. Okay, on to the featured games. We start off with the Friday night game between Rutgers and Washington in New Jersey. I'm taking Rutgers. This is, again, a very far travel game for the Washington Huskies. Every game that Washington plays on the East Coast in the Big Ten is going to be difficult, but this, I believe, is their furthest game of the entire season. I can check their schedule, but I'm pretty certain they don't have to go farther than New Jersey, and yeah, this is by far their farthest game. This is rough. Again, going from, they said, and this is what happens when the Dolphins have to go from Miami all the way to Seattle, and that's what happened last week in the NFL. It's rough going cross country just to play a football game on a Friday night. This is difficult. I think it's really difficult for Washington. On top of that, Rutgers is the better football team. Kalamakis has been pretty good for this Rutgers team so far this season. Washington, okay, yeah, I didn't think they were going to cover against Northwestern this last week. They did. Their defense balled out, but I don't think they're going to be able to do the same thing against Rutgers. Will Rogers has been all right, but he hasn't been Michael Penix, and he will never be Michael Penix. But honestly, Rogers has not been all that bad so far this season for UW. It's just that their offense tends again to stall out once they get into plus territory. They were better last week against Northwestern. I will give them credit for that. But this is just a rough game for them. Going on the road on a Friday night in New Jersey, I just think it's really difficult. Again, with all that travel and taking on a team that I do think is better than them as well. If this game was in Seattle, I would actually pick UW. I would. Just because, again, traveling cross country is very difficult for a bunch of college athletes. I think it's difficult. And then having to play a football game on a Friday night too. But with all that being said, Rutgers is the better football team. I think they're close, but Rutgers is slightly better. And with this game being at in New Jersey, home field advantage really matters for this game. Give me the Scarlet Knights to cover the 2.5. We go to our next game here. We've got Maryland and Indiana. So again, I told you earlier I would save my little Indiana tangent until now, and here we go. Guys, Indiana's a top 15 team in all of college football. Look at their schedule and tell me a team they lose to before they play Ohio State. Maryland, they are going to beat Maryland this week. Maryland's 3-1. They lost to Michigan State by 3 points at home. Michigan State's not the team Indiana is. They beat Virginia. Who cares? They blew out UConn. Who cares? What has Indiana done this season? They beat FIU as part of their worst game all season. That was their first game, again, with the new coach or whatnot, with Kurt Signetti. First game in Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. They beat West Illinois 77-3. They beat UCLA on the road 42-13. They beat Charlotte 52-14. Now they are at home taking on Maryland, a team they are much better than. They are 4-0 with the chance to be 5-0. And Indiana, again, look at their schedule. Tell me a game they lose this season. Other than Ohio State, Maryland, no. Northwestern, not losing that. Not losing Nebraska. Sure as hell not losing to Washington. They're not going to East Lansing and losing, I don't think. Michigan, yeah, it's kind of tough. But games in Indiana, I'm siding with the Hoosiers. They are going to be 11-1 this season. I think they do lose to Ohio State. I think they get their win back in the Big Ten championship game. Yes, am I hyping up Indiana a little bit? Sure. But when Indiana wins the Big Ten championship this year, save this video. I'm telling you right now, just save it. And just remember who told you that Indiana is winning the Big Ten. Okay? They're still going to get into the Big Ten championship game with one loss because Oregon's going to lose twice. Oregon's going to lose to Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan's going to lose to Indiana and Ohio State. And so that means Indiana will get into the Big Ten championship game with one loss. They are the second best team in the Big Ten, and they will get their revenge against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. Okay? Indiana's a better football team. And I will say it right now. If Indiana makes the Big Ten championship, I will return to Indiana. I've not been to Indiana in about 4 months. But if IU is in the Big Ten championship game, I will go to Indiana, and I will vlog me going to Indiana and going to the Big Ten championship game. Okay? I will do it. I don't know if you give a damn about the vlog. I probably don't. But that's something for me. Okay? That's how confident I am. If they go, I will drop at least $600 on a trip over to Indiana. Okay? Boom, and I will stay in Bloomington, Indiana. That's what I am saying, okay? That's what's going to happen when Indiana goes to the Big Ten championship game. And it's not even an if, because it's going to happen. Anyways, they're going to beat Maryland. They're the better football team. Again, shout out to Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke's a top 10 quarterback in all of college football. He just is. We talk about how great Brendan Sorbs is. He's really good too. He's a former IU guy. But Curtis Rourke has been tremendous. He does not turn the ball over. He makes smart decisions with the football. He's throwing the football at a 76% completion rate so far this season. Curtis Rourke, again, is the best quarterback in college football that nobody's talking about. The Ohio transfer is balling this season. I like Indiana a lot this year, man. They're going to cover the 7.5 against Maryland. I am very excited to make my trip back to Indiana in December. Actually, it's December or November. I went to the Big Ten championship game last year. I think it's in... Wasn't it? No, it's in December. Yeah, it's definitely in December. What am I talking about? Yeah, if Indiana's in the Big Ten championship game, I'll go back to the Big Ten title game next year. Okay. Oklahoma State versus K-State. Give me Oklahoma State to cover on the road. Kansas State, I just don't think is very good. I don't think they are. Last week at BYU, I didn't think they were going to lose to BYU. I didn't think they were going to. I thought they were going to not cover, and that's what happened. I didn't think they were going to lose by 29 points, though. Kansas State, sure, they beat Arizona, but this team doesn't impress me at all. Avery Johnson, I don't think is that, great of a quarterback. DJ Giddens is a really good back for them, sure. Oklahoma State's by far the better football team. I don't care. They're going on the road for this one. They're just better. Alan Bowman is old, but he's doing a good job as their starting quarterback this season. Ollie Gordon's been really just underwhelming this year. He came into the season as the best player in all of college football, and he really hasn't shown that this year. Is it his fault? He's looked slower. The O-line, again, sure, and all that. I'm not going to put any of the offseason controversy around Ollie Gordon, as a factor of why he's not playing well, but Oklahoma State, again, has seen better days. But I just think the better football team than Kansas State. I think their offense is better. Again, Alan Bowman, again, is the better quarterback in this matchup with him and Avery Johnson. I think that's apparent. It's interesting that Brendan Presley's not getting involved as much, at least, up until the red zone he gets involved. But at least in terms of yards-wise, Presley's, I think, the third leading receiver. Obviously, he has the most catches on this team. He's a factor, of course, once they get into plus territory. But Oklahoma State's the better football team. I know they lost to Utah last week, but I like Utah a lot. I really do. We're going to get to Utah later on this video. Isaac Wilson, I think, is a very serviceable guy for them. Obviously, he's no Cam Rising, but Isaac Wilson, I think, is going to be very good, for a very long time for Utah. He's just a freshman. I think Utah's a better football team all around. They're better than K-State. They will win this game on the road. I don't care. They're 6-point underdogs. They're going to cover that fairly easily, and I think they straight up win the game, too. K-State's just not that good. Next up, Brigham Young takes on Baylor. I think BYU goes on the road and beats Baylor. I don't think, okay, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here, but I don't think BYU's as good as people think they are, just because I don't think K-State's very good. And yeah, they beat K-State 38-9. Well, BYU didn't really do anything that impressive that game. It's just K-State kind of got in the way of themselves in that one. They turned the ball over a couple times. Obviously, BYU had the big punt return, right? The fumbles, the picks. K-State kind of shot themselves in the foot against Brigham Young. They did. So again, and BYU, they got outgained 370-240 in this game. Again, they made plays on defense, sure, give them credit. I don't think they're as good as people think they are. Now, I think they beat Baylor, though. I do think they go on the road and beat this Baylor team. Again, this team is going to be in complete shambles after their loss last week against Colorado. Again, the most miraculous comeback of all time Shedeur Sanders pulled in that football game. Say it how it is. The Hail Mary at the end of the football game, they should have got it. They should have got it the Hail Mary in the first try. But Baylor was in control of that football game until they weren't. And actually, at the same time, Colorado was in control of that football game until they went for it on 4th and 4. Baylor got the football back, had the touchdown pass and everything. But again, Colorado came back and won the football game. Again, Baylor looks better with Robertson, I think, than they were with Daquan Finn, which sucks because I really like Daquan Finn, but Robertson runs the ball really well, and he's just done a better job than what Finn did for this Baylor team earlier this season. But I just think as a whole, BYU's defense should be able to hold Baylor. Again, Colorado did see some varying success. I understand they gave them 31 points, but still, they did see some success against BYU. Since Colorado's defense did see some success against Baylor, and Brigham Young's got the better defense. I think personally, they're able to cause turnovers. Their offense, leaves a lot to be desired, but I think BYU barely wins this football game. They win it by a field goal in Waco. They are the better team, I think. And again, I think it's going to be real rough for Baylor coming off that loss last week in the most disappointing fashion possible. Give me BYU to ride the high of their victory last week. I don't think Brigham Young's going to stay in the rankings for long, though. Again, they play Arizona in 2 weeks at home. If they don't lose that game, they're going to lose against Oklahoma State. And if they don't lose that, they're not going to beat UCF. And if somehow they get through all 3 of those, they're not going to Utah and winning. So, again, this BYU miracle run will come to an end eventually. It's just a matter of when. I don't think it's this week at all, though. I think they do go to Waco and win the football game. Okay, to our next one, Western Kentucky and Boston College. I just think this one's interesting because I keep hyping up Western Kentucky for good reason. I really like WKU. I said it when they played Alabama at the beginning of the season, and I understand again. They did not play Alabama all that well. They did not have the performance against the Crimson Tide like I wanted them to have. I wanted them to be very close in that game and only lose the game by a touchdown or 2. Now, it didn't happen, and we're going to get to the Crimson Tide in a moment here. But Western Kentucky, again, we cashed on them as underdogs last week at home against Toledo. I was trying to tell you, Western Kentucky's the better football team, and that's what happened. They won the game. They came back. Shout out Caden Veltkamp. He's a very good quarterback for this WKU squad. Again, he beat out TJ Full. TJ Finley was the starter, but they went to Caden Veltkamp, and Veltkamp's been better since. I think they remain competitive with Boston College. It's the team that beat last week Michigan State by 4 points. And we thought that was going to happen. The red bandana game. I didn't think Boston College was going to win, but we thought Michigan State was going to cover, and that's what happened. BC's pretty good. They are. BC's a good football team. They are, right? They only lost Missouri by 6. They had a very tight game with Michigan State. They will beat Western Kentucky. But will they cover 13 points? I don't think so. I think Western Kentucky, again, they get their second chance against a Power 5 school. The last time they got this chance, they got the crap beat out of them in Tuscaloosa. I like Thomas Castellanos a lot. I like the running game. We talk about every week. We talk about Ward, Richard, and Robichaux. They've got 3 really capable running backs they split reps with. Those 3 guys, the 3-headed monster Boston College runs a running back, is very effective. All 3 of those guys can run the football very effectively. I think Western Kentucky stays in the football game, though. I think, again, they're able to come back. They're able to put up points. I don't think they lose by 13. I think they lose by more like 7 and 10. I think this is the game that I wanted Western Kentucky to kind of have against Alabama, and I think we're going to see it this week against Boston College. So give me WKU to cover, but give me BC to straight up win the football game. Obviously, they're minus 500 favorites. Our next one, Louisville goes to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. We're taking the Cardinals to go and win the football game at Notre Dame. Call me a Notre Dame hater. I might be. I pick against them every single week. I'll be fully transparent with you. I didn't pick them to lose against NIU, but that's fine. I pick against Notre Dame over almost every single week. I thought Miami of Ohio was going to cover that game against Notre Dame, and they did, because Notre Dame's offense, it's just not that great. Riley Leonard somehow got worse going from Duke to Notre Dame. They can't throw the ball that much with Riley Leonard. It's really weird. He's been running the ball great. Him and Jeremiah Love both have 330 yards for this football team, but they just can't throw it, and they're never going to be able to just pull away from teams. That's just not how. And yeah, they won the game last week by 25 points against Northern Illinois, but we still covered with Miami of Ohio, but we still covered that game. They were 20.5-point underdogs. They lost the game by 25 points. We're fine. I think it was 27, but still, we covered that game. Louisville's an undefeated football team. Right? The win over Georgia Tech's huge, beating that team by 12 points a couple weeks ago. That's a big victory. Tyler Shaw, it feels like he's been in college for forever, because he has. But again, he's been good as a starting quarterback of this team. Harrison Bailey should take over next year. I think Bailey's still a junior, right? I think he is. I hope he's not a senior. Harrison Bailey's a senior. Oh, that's rough. Former Tennessee quarterback. I thought Harrison Bailey was going to finally get his chance next season. He didn't. Why did he go to Louisville? Why did he go to Louisville? They have so many quarterbacks, and they got Tyler Shows, like 25 years old. Why would Harrison Bailey go to Louisville? That one didn't make sense in the portal. But anyways, it really didn't. But Louisville's good enough to stay competitive with Notre Dame. And I think they're going to win the football game. I think they are. I think Tyler Show in this offense is going to be able to move the football downfield. I just don't think Notre Dame's good. Notre Dame's not able to get away from any team. They can't throw the football. Louisville knows that. If they shut down the run, they win the football game. Give me the Louisville Cardinals to go on the road to South Bend and win the football game again. Last time Notre Dame had well, they beat Miami of Ohio. But still, they lost to NIU in South Bend. I think they lose to Louisville in South Bend as well. Give me the Cardinals to win the football game. They are the higher-ranked team. They are the only team in this game that is undefeated. Give me Louisville to win and to cover the 6.5 as well. Well, obviously, if they're going to win. This is a great game in the Mountain West. Boise State I will get to later. But these are two very good Mountain West schools. These are excellent Mountain West schools. Don't miss this game on Saturday. Don't. This is, I don't know if it's the best game of the 12:30 slate because Louisville, Notre Dame. But if you don't want to pay for Peacock, because I don't want to pay for Peacock either, I will be seated for Fresno State versus UNLV at 12:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. This is an incredible football game. UNLV and Matthew Sluka have been incredible all season long. Sluka, sure, is he not the best thrower of the football? Maybe not. He's throwing the ball like about a 40% completion rate this season, but that's not what he is. He's a great runner of the football. He, again, last year at Holy Cross, he had a game where he ran for like 290 yards. Again, they had that game, that tight game against Boston College, right? UNLV's good, and Matthew Sluka is a tremendous quarterback too. This guy is a monster, and Fresno State has got a really good quarterback as well, and Mikey Keene. Keene's playing well for them. Their running attack's doing all right with Sherrod and Gillum. I like Fresno State a lot. Mac Delana is a good receiver as well. I've been hyping up Fresno State all season long. I have. I've been hyping them up since the Michigan game. I have. I like them to beat Sacramento State. I like them in that New Mexico State game. I like them in the New Mexico game last week. They are now getting UNLV. These are two of the better schools in the Mountain West. Again, Boise State is another very good Mountain West school, but I really love this football game. I think Fresno State wins it, though. I understand it's in Las Vegas, sure. It's at Allegiant Stadium. But if Fresno State's able to shut down the running abilities of Matthew Sluka, and you got to know that's all they are keyed in on this week, I think they should be fine. Fresno didn't play horribly against Michigan. Now they're going to see another very run-heavy team in UNLV. UNLV's got an interesting offense. They got, they run their no huddle. They throw out, I believe Sluka in the no huddle will literally just yell out one word, and all these guys know what to run off of this one. I mean, obviously it's a play design, but still, like, they have just code words for stuff. Actually, I don't know why this is so impressive. I just remember the broadcast going on and on about UNLV having one word for a bunch of different routes against the Kansas game. But now that, that sounded better in my head, but now when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's just a pass pattern. It's just they have one word for. I don't know why the commentator of that game in ESPN was going on and on about that. I was like, I remember that. I was like, oh, that's going to be something interesting to say about UNLV, but it's really not all that impressive. Anyways, I think Fresno State's a better football team. They're able to stop the run. I like their offense a lot. Again, I like Matthew Sluka a lot too. I'm going to hype up the winner of this football game a lot. Whoever wins this football game is going to be my team. I'm going to be hyping up the entire season out the Mountain West. And yes, I've been hyping up Fresno State the entire season, but this is a very great football game. I think Fresno State does it. I think they contain the run. Give me the Bulldogs to win on the road at Allegiant Stadium. Give me Fresno State onto the playoffs. Hey, maybe. I don't know. These two teams, Boise State and San Jose State, are the four best teams in the Mountain West. Okay, to our next one. There we go. Colorado UCF. Okay, call me a Colorado hype train rider. That doesn't sound right, but call me a Colorado fan. But we're taking the Buffaloes. Taking Colorado to go to Orlando and beat UCF. I understand they're 14.5-point dogs. And I get it. The last time Colorado went on the road and played a very good football team, they lost to Nebraska by 18 points. But guys, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football. And unlike the NFL, which is happening right now and pretty evident, sometimes the team with the better quarterback doesn't win in the NFL. In college football, for the most part, the team with the better quarterback usually wins the football game. Now, it doesn't always happen, but whoever plays better at the quarterback position usually wins in college football. He didn't play better than Raiola against Nebraska. Not saying Shedeur's not better than Dylan Raiola. He is. Shedeur Sanders should be the #1 pick in the draft next season. But Shedeur Sanders in that Baylor game, again, it showed you, and it wasn't this, Shedeur's been clutch before in that game last year against Colorado State where he won the game and said I felt like Tom Brady doing that, which is great. But that's against Colorado State. He did that against a Big 12 school in Baylor last week. It's very impressive. That rollout throw to the left, on the run, turns, sets his feet, fires the Hail Mary, wins the game, or ties the game and sends it to overtime. That's one of the better throws I've ever seen. It just is. Escaping the pressure, which Shedeur Sanders is able to do with the lack of an offensive line that the Colorado Buffaloes have, is some of the most impressive stuff I've seen out of a college football quarterback in a very long time. I'm so impressed with Shedeur Sanders. He's that good. Now, that doesn't tell the whole story. Obviously, UCF's got a very good quarterback in their own right in KJ Jefferson. I will give credit to KJ Jefferson. The former Arkansas quarterback is very good in his own right. And their run game out of UCF is pretty dominant too. RJ Harvey has ran for over 130 yards in every single game he's played this season. And that's where I am a little bit concerned with Colorado in this game. But I will say this game is going to look a lot like Colorado's game at TCU last season. I understand TCU's not the football team they were last year, or they weren't the football team they were with Max Duggan and, Quentin Johnson when they made the national championship game. I understand they're not that same team, and Zach Evans, but this is a very similar type of game, I think. Colorado goes to UCF to shoot out. UCF's going to be able to run the ball all day long in this game. They are. But Colorado's going to be able to keep up. They have learned from that first Nebraska game. Hell, last year after they lost their first game to Oregon, they came back, had a competitive game with USC. They didn't win, but they covered. So again, if you're not confident in the plus 300, 350 underdog in Colorado, which I wouldn't be, but I'm going to back it. If you're not confident in that, I would be pretty confident with them covering 13.5 points in this game. Or what is it, 13.5 or it's 14.5? They can lose by 2 touchdowns and still cover. And that's what happened in the USC game, right? They lost by 2 touchdowns, but they still covered the spread. I think it was like 16.5. I think it was 17.5. I don't remember. But Colorado, again, they just like last year, they learned from the Oregon game. And yes, the rest of the season didn't go all that great, but they still played tight against USC. I think they're able to play competitively against UCF. I think they're able to win the football game. It's going to be a straight shootout. Seriously. I think the final score of this game is 56 to like 52. But I think Colorado wins it. I'm trusted in Colorado, man. Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are 2 top 5 players in college football, and they're going to pick up the win. Bust out my IP, perfect timing. Yep, give me the Buffaloes. Okay, Ohio State and Michigan State. I think Michigan State actually covers the 24.5. This is the first real game Ohio State has played all season long. It is the first real game they have played. They played Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall. They gave up their first points last week when they beat Marshall 49-14. But again, they have not played, they gave up 6 points to Akron, but still. They are not a real team. They have not played a real good Big Ten school yet. And Michigan State, okay, going into the season, were they supposed to be a really good team? No, but I would say they're middle of the pack in the Big Ten. They will be a bowl team this season, Michigan State. Are they going to win the Big Ten? No, they're not. They're not going to win this football game, obviously, but they're going to cover the 24.5 points. Ohio State needs to still get in their groove, and this is what they need. Because, again, they get Iowa next week in Columbus. It's a good defense they're going to play. They're still going to, beat the brakes off them, but that's a good team that they can play next week. It's, again, at home. They need these games before they go to Oregon. They need them before they go to Eugene. I think Ohio State right now beats Oregon. We will get to that game in a couple weeks on October 12th. I'm so excited for that game. We'll get to that when we get there. I think the same week. Is it the same week Oklahoma and Texas? I think it is. Or is that Texas-Georgia week? I don't know. There's a lot of good games that weekend, the 12th. Anyways, Ohio State needs a game like this. They're not going to cover the 24.5, though. Michigan State's going to be ultra motivated to win this football game. Aiden Childs I don't know, man. Aiden Childs needs to hold on to the football. He just can't do it. He's thrown 7 picks this season. Childs has just been very this year for Michigan State. I like Michigan State's defense a lot. They play teams really tough. They do. I think they're going to play Ohio State really tough. Again, and Ohio State's offense hasn't seen a really good defense just yet. Yes, they have all the position players in the world. They've got Will Howard. They got Quinshawn Judkins. They got Travion Henderson. They got Emeka. They got Jeremiah Smith. They got all these star players in position spots. They got Devin Brown again, who will take over as a starter next season as a senior for Ohio State when Will Howard is gone. But they haven't played a real team yet. They haven't played a really solid Big Ten school yet. That's what Michigan State is, and Michigan State will give them trouble. Ohio State's still going to win the football game by 21 points, maybe by 24 points. But with all that being said, that still means we cover with Michigan State. It's going to be a close one in the spread, but I think the Spartans will cover the game, and they will not win, but they will cover. Okay, to our next one, Georgia, Alabama, obviously the game of the week. It's undeniable that this is the biggest game of the week. I think Alabama beats Georgia. Everything I've seen out of both these teams so far shows me Alabama's the better football team. Plus the game's in Tuscaloosa, which, again, sometimes home field advantage really just doesn't matter, especially when teams are close. But when you're playing in Tuscaloosa, when you're playing SEC ball, no, that does matter. And Georgia's just been, I don't know, like, the Clemson game was great, and that's going to keep aging well for Georgia. Good for them. The Kentucky game concerns me. They went on the road to Lexington and put up 13 points and barely survived that game, still undefeated. And I don't think Kentucky's that great of a team this year. They're just not. Again, Will Levis is far gone. Like, it's not the same Kentucky team. Carson Beck did not play all that well. Etienne hasn't been, he's been doing all right, but Trevor Etienne hasn't been, blowing anybody away this season. Alabama's just the way better football team. They are. Jalen Milroe, he's top 10 as well. He's a top 10 quarterback in college football. He is. The run game's getting going. Jam Miller's pretty solid. Again, just Alabama, same can be said with, we're talking about Ohio State. They haven't really played a really competitive team yet. Well, they did get that against Wisconsin, but Wisconsin just couldn't keep up against them. And that game was over at halftime. Well, Alabama's going to get a dogfight this week against Georgia. And they're going to win the dogfight. They're going to beat Georgia. The defense should be able to stop this Georgia offense that didn't look great last week. They just didn't. Or 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. Carson Beck, again, is supposed to be a top 10 quarterback. Supposed to be a top 5 quarterback in college football. I don't think he's that great. But again, he struggled last week at Kentucky. He's going to struggle at Alabama. And Alabama's going to win this game by a pretty fair margin. They're underdogs in this game, but Alabama's going to win this game by double digits, I think. I think they will. That might be a hot take. But I think Alabama wins this game by double digits. They're just much better. And with this game being in Alabama, all things considered, yeah, Alabama's going to win this football game. Jalen Milroe, again, has done what Alabama's needed him to do. Now this is his time to step up in a big football game, and what Alabama's going to do is they're going to beat Georgia in a big football game. Give me the Crimson Tide. Roll Tide, baby. Alabama wins it, and I think they cover. Well, they're underdogs. They're going to cover, obviously, but give me Alabama to win. I think they win the game by about 7-10 points. When they go to Rocky Top in October, that's a football game. Alabama versus Tennessee is going to be something else later this season. But Alabama is going to beat Georgia. They don't play Texas in the regular season. We'll probably get Alabama and Texas in the postseason, or in the SEC championship game. But Alabama is going to stake their claim as the number 1 team in the country, and they should be the number 1 team in the country after they beat Georgia this week. I think they get it done. First, again, Kalen DeBoer is going to get it done this week. Bama's going to win. They're going to win at home against Georgia. All right, next up, we've got Illinois versus Penn State. Guys, I'm just going to actually, no, I'm not going to very briefly go over this game. Because Penn State should win it, and again, they are minus 1,000 favorites, but Illinois, I think, covers the 18 points here. Penn State hasn't wowed me this season. They beat West Virginia, but West Virginia has just been okay this year. They beat Bowling Green by 7 points. We've talked about that at length, just because, again, Bowling Green's been competitive with a lot of teams. All right. They beat up on Kent State last year. Again, they were going to beat up on Kent State regardless, but they played Kent State's third-string quarterback, Illinois has been good this season. I think 18 points is way too much. They're 4-0, obviously, wins over Kansas, Central Michigan, and Nebraska, which are 3 pretty solid wins. Their offense looked really good. Luke Altmaier has been really good at the quarterback position for Illinois so far this season. He's thrown 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been throwing the ball at a 70% completion rate as well. Illinois' offensive play is really good. I don't think they're going to be able to be as effective this week, obviously, against this really good Penn State defense that will definitely stop the Fighting Illini. But I just don't think Penn State's able to get away from Illinois by that many points. 18's a lot, considering I think these teams are a lot closer than you expect. I think Illinois is a lot closer to Penn State than, again, on paper. Oh yeah, in football, Penn State should kill Illinois. This isn't basketball, right? But no, Illinois this year is a lot closer to Penn State than they've been in previous years. Penn State's still going to win the football game, but again, I think Illinois keeps it competitive. Give me Illinois to cover, but Penn State obviously to win. Next up, we go to Boise State versus Washington State. I'm going to say it straight off the bat. 7.5 is too many points. Washington State will stay in this football game by more than that. They're going to cover, but Boise State's going to win. Now, again, I just don't know about Boise just yet. They looked really good against Georgia Southern. They looked really good against Oregon. They lost, and they beat Portland State. We will see again. Oregon looked very bad to start the season. They still won their football games, but they didn't look that great. We are going to see how good truly Boise State is this week, because Washington State's a team nobody's talking about. Nobody is talking about how good this Washington State team has played so far this season. John Matier, guys, is excellent. He's a very good runner of the football. He did make some mistakes in the San Jose State game, but in the end, Washington State won the football game. I don't know how he threw that pick in the first overtime when all you needed to do is kick a field goal, but again, it worked out for me. Well, it didn't. San Jose State ended up losing, but still, I think John Matier is really good. Again, you saw how many problems the Washington Huskies had against Matier. There's a lot of smart people at the University of Washington, and they had real trouble trying to figure out how to stop John Matier and literally everything that he does. I have a friend at the University of Washington, and the text I got during the game while he was at Lumen Field was, "We just can't stop this guy. we have no hope against this guy. That's what John Mateer will do to you. And I think, again, single-handedly, John Mateer should be able to keep Washington State in this football game. Yeah, Boise State's going to score, but Washington State's going to score too. Again, they run a quick offense. Look at the amount of points Washington State's put up this season. Again, disregard Washington, because that's a very close game. That's a rivalry game, whatever, the Apple Cup, right? But 54 against San Jose State, 37 against Texas Tech, 70 against Portland State. What Boise State's been able to do this season, obviously, they might have the best running back in college football. They have one of the top 5 guys in the Heisman race right now in Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty, through 3 games, has 600 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's that good. He's averaging 200 yards a game and 3 touchdowns a game. Again, Ashton Jeanty is in the Heisman race, and he should be the favorite right now. Real quick, let me check the Heisman odds. I don't know where Jeanty is, but he's got to be in the top 10, right? I mean, obviously, he's not expected to keep this up. But okay, it goes Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Nico, Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Will Howard. That's your top 10. And I understand why Genty's that low. It's just because he's at Boise State. And is he going to keep this up the entire season? Probably not. But again, watch out for Ashton Jeanty. And that's what's going to give Washington State a lot of fits in this game. Their run defense was pretty good. Well, actually, no. Their run defense left a lot to be desired last week against San Jose State. Floyd Chalk was able to run the ball a lot in that game. That was my one gripe with San Jose State a lot last week. They didn't run the ball enough, even though, yes, San Jose State's not playing this week, so I don't get to go on my Nick Nash tangent, but you will get that next week, definitely on the channel. Guys, Nick Nash is the best receiver in college football. Nick Nash is a future first-round pick. Nick Nash is the second coming of Calvin Johnson, okay? Yeah, I've thrown some bold takes in this video, and I appreciate you guys for watching with these bold takes, but I'm just saying, Washington State's run defense was really struggling some with Floyd Chalk, and Floyd Chalk got the ball like 9 times. He had like 90 yards. What is Ashton Jeanty going to do to them? Boise State is going to win the football game, but I think Washington State's good enough to cover. I think Boise State wins the game by a touchdown, which would, again, not be enough to cover. They win the game by 7. The spread's 7.5. Boise State wins, but Washington State covers. As we go on to our final game of the week, Arizona goes to Utah in a Big 12 matchup here. Is Cam Rising going to be back or not? I don't know. Personally, I don't really think it matters that much. Now, don't get me wrong. Cam Rising's better than Isaac Wilson. He is. He's not going to turn the ball over as much as Isaac Wilson. And obviously, he shouldn't. Again, Cam Rising's like 23 and Isaac Wilson's 18 years old. Like, obviously, again, Cam Rising should be better than a guy that he's 5 years older than. But still, I don't think the fall off is that much. Utah's going to get better when Cam Rising's the starting quarterback, obviously, because he's not going to make the stupid mistakes that Isaac Wilson will. And Isaac Wilson, again, he's only a freshman. He's going to be the guy for Utah until, again, this guy's in the NFL, because Isaac Wilson will go to the NFL someday. It's just a matter of, how long does he stay in college? He's going to be the starter for Utah forever, I think, again, until he decides to go to the NFL. Or unless he decides to transfer, why would you transfer out of this spot? Again, this is, his last name's Wilson. His brother's in the NFL, obviously. And Zach Wilson, I hope Zach Wilson better be the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins at some point in the season. I'm just saying. Bo Nix is going to fall apart. Either that or Bo Nix is going to fall apart sometime this season. Zach Wilson is better than Bo Nix. I will keep on saying that. But this team will get better when Cam Rising's the starting quarterback. If Cam Rising's starting this week, it's only going to help them because they're not going to turn the ball over nearly as much with Rising. Obviously, Rising hasn't thrown a pick yet this year in 2 games. Wilson's thrown 5 in 2 games. That's fine. For Arizona, they just looked so bad 2 weeks ago at K-State. Now they're back at home, I get it. And it's hard to win in Arizona. It just is. Whether it be the Sun Devils or whether it be the Wildcats, it's tough to win games in Arizona. But Utah, again, their defense is just so much better. If they find a way to stop T-Mac, which you're not going to find a way to completely neutralize the guy, but they will find a way to limit the damage he's able to do. Utah should be fine there. Noah Fifita is, again, a good quarterback, but he did not look good in the Kansas State game. Utah, again, has a defense better than Kansas State, and Utah is going to make Noah Fifita look even worse than he did in the Kansas State game. That's the problem for Arizona in this game. Yes, they're not on the road this time, but still the problem for them is Utah is better than Kansas State, so that is trouble for the Arizona Wildcats. And again, I don't think it really matters if Isaac Wilson or Cam Rising play. Obviously, again, Cam Rising, there will be a slight, the offense will be better with Cameron Rising. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it hurts him that much that Isaac Wilson is the starting quarterback of this team. I like Isaac Wilson a lot. Again, he will be the starter next season. He will be the starter. And he'll be the guy that's going to lead Utah to a Big 12 championship game someday. 100%. 100%. But regardless who the starting quarterback is. Oh, this game's in Utah. I thought it was in Arizona. Okay, no, never mind. This is a blowout. 100%. No. Arizona on the road, yeah, it's a blowout. Yeah, no. I thought this game was in Arizona, and I was still going to pick Utah. No, this game is in Utah. Yeah, this is not close. Utah wins in Salt Lake City. They absolutely dominate the football game. It does not matter who's the quarterback of this game. They're going to win it by 21 points. Arizona's not going to be able to score. No, Fita's not going to be able to get going. T-Mac's not going to get open. Yeah, Arizona is going to get destroyed in Utah. It's not close. So, folks, that'll do it for our college football week number 5 predictions. By far the longest college football predictions video we've done so far this season. But again, as the season keeps going, I've got more and more to say about each team, and I'm really enjoying the ride so far. I love college football. I enjoy it more than the NFL. I look forward to Saturdays more than I do Sundays, just because, again, I enjoy college football 10 times more than I do the NFL. I just do. And again, for most of my life, it was the other way around, but that's just kind of what happens when Tom Brady stops playing football. And also, again, college football is just so much more entertaining. Again, college football is the best. It's the best sport to watch. I love it. And we're doing really well picking so far this season. So again, I want to thank you guys for watching the channel. Be back every single week for more college football picks. Folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Join us tomorrow for NFL predictions. And thank you all for watching. And Mamba forever.